Good evening, everyone. I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and I'm going to go live for one last time during this bundle experience. And I'm not going to be cooking, so that's the best part for me is I'm done with cooking. However, I have a lot of things here that I can show you that I have cooked, and I basically have a lot of the food I made during the bundle 10 days, not week, that I have here to show you. And some of it I made recently in the last 3 or 4 days, and I've just kind of kept it in the refrigerator and it's fine. Some of it I made early on, so I had to freeze it and bring it back out. So I did that, especially things like cookies. I made a lot of the cookies. You can see them back here by the ebooks. So I made the cookies early on, some of them. So I put them all in the freezer so I wouldn't eat them. Okay, the sound is good. Oh, I forgot the peanut butter bars. I still have a few of those, but that's okay. They're in the freezer. They're in one little small bag because I only had a few left. I think my husband ate most of them. So I'm going to go grab them while you guys are coming on. So I'll be right back. I'm back. I'm back. Okay, let's see if you can still hear me since I did leave the room. Gotta check my sound. Give you a couple minutes for people to come on. Okay. Yep. Add AirPods. Here we go. Okay. I think now I got the AirPods on, and I had to go and get the peanut butter bars. Sound is good. Look at all that food making me hungry. What an amazing week it's been. Hello, Linda, Nico, Belinda, Jill. Okay, I think I have some room on this platter. So everyone can hear me. That's good. I'm going to move these back a little and have room for these peanut butter bars. And I wanted you to also see that these things freeze well because I made them quite a bit earlier in the week and they look great. So Anthea Phillips says, finally catching you. Great. And so remember, I'll show you all these in a few minutes. Get them over here and I will get the bundle link live. I think I have it saved on my thing here. Nope. Just when I thought I had it all together, I never have it quite completely together. Hi, Linda. Hi, Jill. And here's the link for those of you who may not have had time to be watching all this stuff all week. Well, since March the 1st, we've had the promotion for the vegan health bundle. And for those who might not know it, and this is your last chance for the bundle, my last class for the bundle, yes. Remember, the bundle is 83 different kinds of content, like my new ebooks, the 21-day challenge, and the plant-based cookie book. There's about 83 things like this. And if you just were to buy one or two, you could easily spend $49. There's a Spice Island Vegan, Debbie Knight. Can't wait to make some of these items. I've loved your videos. Great. So just two of my ebooks alone would cost $49 easily. Then you added the other 81, and some of those things are worth hundreds of dollars. So let's see. So Tricianist said, I made the live. Great. Nene says, looks good, delicious, all your hard work. We appreciate it. I've been looking through your YouTube channel. Wonderful. I have a lot of YouTube videos, so you can go back and watch them. Ross Chef Yin, hi. Good to finally have you on. I've been watching the replay. Oh, wow. 9 a.m. in Malaysia. I can't believe you've been watching the replay of all my lame cooking videos. They're so kind of scatterbrained and I'm all over the place, but I'm glad you're watching them. I watched your interview with, I think it was on Chef AJ or it was on somebody's channel, and you were talking about it was on Chef AJ because you did your radishes. And I was thinking, I don't think I've ever tried those, but that made me want to try the radishes. So watch Chef AJ's show and you can see raw Chef Yin. You get 10 downloads to put it on multiple devices. That's right. So Raw Chef Yin is watching, and she's one of the contributors, and she is a very talented chef that lives in Malaysia. She lives far away. So what time is it right now in Malaysia, Raw Chef Yin? And her contribution is called Korean barbecue. So it is her form of Korean barbecue made raw. So I'm going to ask her, what is in your Korean barbecue? What did you use as the ingredient that you could make a raw form of Korean barbecue? And let's see, what is in the blue divided dish with the white icing? Oh, this is a super cube. This is zucchini soup. So the zucchini soup, remember we made it the other day, and my friend gave this to me. Nancy Siriani gave this to me for Christmas. Rosh Effian says, I've especially enjoyed your banter, how you said no one in Asia freezes their tofu. That made me laugh because that is true. Yay. Oh, it's 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning, so the bundle is over. So see, Raw Chef Yin is Asian and she doesn't freeze her tofu. When the culinary school teacher said that, I thought, I don't think any authentic Asian person freezes tofu because we would think it tastes gross. So I've got someone to agree with me. Yay. Julie Denton says this bundle is amazing to have Chef Julia's delectable recipes. We love every recipe we've tried. Thank you. Oh, you're too nice. So what I wanted to do is kind of go through, I've already been eating. I had tomato soup. So the tomato soup in that Italian flair, it's a plentiful fare with Italian flair, is really good. Make a sauce and marinate mushrooms. Okay. And dehydrate it. So this is the tomato soup. I have plenty of it and I'm going to freeze it. Nice to see Raw Chef Yin here. Yeah, she's very talented and so cute. She always has a fresh chef coat on and she just looks really, like somebody who looks very official. So I like watching her and she's very articulate. So she's really sweet. I I saw that when she came to the United States, she went to see Kathy Hester, but she didn't offer to come see me here in Texas. So sometime when you come to the United States again, you have to come see me. Christy says, so funny. I do care for tofu when I don't do care for tofu when it's been frozen either. I guess she means she doesn't care. Okay, so let's look at some of this food. First of all, I'm going to kind of go through an order of when I did it, and then we'll see what I still have. The first thing I did was beans and rice. I don't have any of that left because that was kind of early on, and I used the beans for the chili, and I just didn't think about saving anything early on. But I did save the sweet potato muffins, and we made those back the first day. And the sweet potato muffins are from the collaboration ebook. It's called the 3-ingredient challenge. And my recipe has sweet potatoes, oats, and fruit, dried fruit. And so that was why I made this particular muffin. And I think some of you have made this muffin and said you liked it. So that was on day one. I'm not going to eat a bite of it because then I'll be chewing forever trying to talk. So I'll just save that for later. And then the next day, I made the burgers, my best burgers. And my husband ate two, and I ate two over the course of the next few days, so we didn't save any. It was before I started thinking I was going to save all my food and show it at the end. I wish I had saved a couple of those burgers, but they were so good, we just gobbled them right up. And then I made the peanut butter cookies. So the peanut butter cookies are still around, and they were in the freezer. So a lot of this stuff can be successfully frozen. The peanut butter cookies, after being in the freezer for a few days, they're nice and tender. They're not completely dried out. They still taste great. The thing about it is after a few weeks, though, they don't taste as good. No plans to visit the US, but if I ever do, I'll be in touch. I'd love to visit with you. I want you to cook some of your raw Asian food for me, especially some of your banchan. I love Korean food. We go to BCD Tofu House, and they bring you all kinds of pickled vegetables that I think are so delicious. Okay, so the peanut butter cookies still taste really good. Hi, Daria. Hi, Diana. Christy. So they still taste delicious. So you don't worry about freezing them. And then I made, the next day I made savory still cut oats. I did not save those. I ate them all up. I had them like that day and I had them, I think, the next day. So I ate them in 2 meals and they were really good. I enjoyed them. So, oh, Spice Island Vegan, she is Indonesian. So what part of Indonesia are you from, Debbie? Because she likes a lot of Asian food, and that's why she likes my food so much because a lot of it is Asian inspired. Okay, so then I made holiday oatmeal cookies, which I still have. The holiday oatmeal cookies are right here, and these always last really well. They've been in the freezer and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're kind of moist. Sometimes the only thing is they can get a little soft in the freezer. She's from Java. How far is that from Malaysia? So the holiday oatmeal cookies, if you freeze them and then you want to serve them, you can put them in your oven on a sheet tray on 350 for a few minutes, and that will kind of crisp them up a little bit because they can get a little soft because they do have a lot of moist ingredients in them. So keep that in mind. Then on Tuesday, I made nori spring rolls, and I don't have any of those left because they don't really keep very well. And I kind of ate those up the next day and the day after. Get that soup bowl out of the way. So I did eat those. So I don't have any of those left, but they were really good. You remember what they look like? They were super colorful and bright. So those are all gone. The almond cookies, I don't see any almond cookies. I think I must have left them in the freezer. I have a few of the almond cookies left. They were fine. They freeze well. And then I had let's see, the next one was carrot cake cookies. Have a bunch of those. And the almond cookies were very similar, how they just kept really well. They keep their shape nicely. They hold up well in the freezer. I've been cooking up a storm. Yes, Alicia. Um, Ree K said, the nori spring rolls caused me to want the bundle. That's funny. So this is the carrot cake cookie. Still very moist. Tastes just as good as the day I made it. I'm saving my little plate of cookies for later. So it's delicious, still good, nothing wrong with it. Then the next day, we made chili. So I have one more chili in the freezer. So this chili was, I defrosted it. It was in the freezer, and I have another one the same size. This is like one serving. Debbie Knight, Spice Island Vegan says, practically neighbors. I'm eating uramaki chickpea sushi now, dinner time in Southern California. So what Debbie is eating is this. This is what we made today. This was one of the last things I made. This is the chickpea. I'll show you in this camera. This was the sushi made with chickpea and vegan mayo filling. And then I made some onigiri Japanese rice balls. So that's one of my favorite things to eat. I love that. So that was what we made today, and that's what Debbie's eating right now. So that was good. And then we had the next thing. Let me see. Julie says we need to double the black bean burgers next time. So delicious. Made the tofu and rice last night. Making peanut butter brownies now. Peanut butter brownies. Speaking of peanut butter brownies, this is what we made today, this afternoon. And I made it in the form of a cake. So I made the whole thing, put it on a cake pedestal to show you that if you need to take a cake somewhere, for a special occasion, or you're having some special occasion at your house, this is a good recipe that would be very satisfying to people as a cake because it tastes very rich and it's very cake-like. So keep that one in mind if you're making a celebration cake, because we don't really, in our plant-based, oil-free world, we don't really make a lot of layered cakes or anything because it's just too much. We don't want to eat giant things with lots of frosting, and we don't want to have to use vegan oil and make these big cakes. So I just tend to make simple things. And something like that would taste really good to me. It doesn't have to have some beautiful appearance. I'm not into making a bunch of fancy desserts. I know there is an ebook, though, that you can have fancy desserts. It's James Sant, S-A-N-T. It's in the bundle. And he does something on, I think, I can't remember what he calls it, but I think it's fancy desserts. The culinary school I attended is called the Culinary School of Fort Worth. It's a private culinary school. Non-plant-based people always have cookie swaps. I will have cookies to share this year. There, yeah, of course. These cookies, I would pick something that holds up well, like the carrot cake cookie, because it can handle being tossed around and traveling places. It's not going to fall apart and crumble. It doesn't matter if it's soft. It holds its shape really, really well, even when it gets room temperature for a long time. Or sometimes plant-based cookies will start to get a little soft. And Anthea says, everything looks good. I'm excited to try these recipes. I bought the bundle from you and have really enjoyed all your videos. Well, thank you. I think I've done 20 videos, 2 a day. It's been kind of crazy. Who does that? That's just weird. Okay, then we had chili and then chocolate peanut butter bars. And those are these. And my husband ate so many of them. All I have left are 6. And they freeze really well. I think they improve in the freezer, actually. And the chocolate stayed nice and dark and shiny and pretty. It didn't turn gray or weird colors. So this is like a layered peanut butter bar. And those held up really well. So I think that's another good thing you can make and freeze. It still tastes good. The crust tastes really good. What the heck am I going to do with this plate of things I took a bite off of? I guess I'm going to have a big dessert tonight. When I finally sit down to relax one of these days, I'll have some delicious dessert to eat. Okay, so we made the peanut butter bars. Highly recommend you make those. And sometimes you did 3 videos a day. And oh yeah, I did. And sometimes I appeared on other people's shows. So a few times I appeared on Chef AJ. I appeared with the Janet for the travel, the plant-based peddler. I was on Jennifer Diamond's show, a couple others. Okay, and that was fun. And then I made Snickers bars, and I made this on Chef AJ's show, and that's these cute little bars here. And they are very different from the peanut butter bars because they're a lot moister. So the texture is a lot softer. And I think that's good. That's just different. So yeah, the Culinary School of Fort Worth is a private school, and it was a 1.5-year program. And when I started, I was 54, and that was in 2008. So it's been a long time. And it was funny because I was the oldest person in my class, but they still treated us like we were all a bunch of punky kids. We had to wear a chef coat and one of these floppy kind of chef hats. And we had to clean the kitchen at night. We'd had to scrub the stove and sweep the floor and mop the floor. And at the time I went to culinary school, I was a high-ranking military officer. And I was the equivalent of a captain in the Navy, so '06, like a full bird colonel. And so I was used to being the boss. I was the supervisor. I had a whole department. I wore a nice uniform, and people saluted me on the military base. So I was kind of thinking I was all that. So when I went to culinary school, I was reduced to a student just like all the other people that only required a high school diploma to get into culinary school. Nobody cared that I had an advanced degree, a master's degree or whatever, and neither did the teachers. So they would yell at me just like they'd yell at everybody else. So I will have to say it was a very humbling experience. And I learned a lot about just, putting my nose down and working hard because that was all you could do. You just had to work hard. And I got through it and did fine, graduated with honors. So it was good. And I have continued to be a professional chef since then because of going to that school, that it taught me a lot. And I continue to pursue getting better at being a chef all these years. Even though I've never worked in a restaurant, I've had a private chef business. Jill says, thank you for your service. Thank you. Okay, and then we made Tim Kaufman's curry quinoa burgers. I have a lot of those left because by the time I made these, we had all this other food. And so I still have quite a few of these, and I'm going to put them in the freezer. You earned your cooking stripes. I sure did. And the teacher didn't like me. And these are very good. I'd eat a whole one right now. Yeah, for some reason, my teacher didn't really like me that much. I think because I was older and maybe because I had an advanced degree. And she had people like me before, and they were kind of thought they were too good for stuff. So I had to prove myself. Nikki said, I went to the Art Institute of Houston in 2007, one of the oldest. We had to wear the hats too. Those hats were so goofy looking. I was always thinking, if anybody ever saw me like this, I would look so silly. Chef Julia, I think you could write a book about your life. Yeah, I could. I lived in Japan for 4 years. My parents' story is interesting. I have a lot of things I could write about. Okay, so the quinoa burgers, that was Tim Kaufman's recipe. And then I made the modern japchae, which is inspired. It's a Korean dish. I'll get a fork. I think I have some forks back here. And it was inspired by a restaurant in San Antonio called Best Quality Daughter. And I'll put this under the top-down screen so you could see it better. So this is the one that I had at a restaurant in San Antonio. And it has the Korean glass noodles that are made from sweet potato starch. So you can see them here. It has sweet potatoes, mushrooms, tofu cubes, and kale. And those were the ingredients in the 3-ingredient challenge for savory. And that was another collaborative book where we had to take 3 ingredients and make an entree with it. So I made this Korean noodle salad. I'm going to take a bite of it and tell you it's still good. And it has this really good dressing. Oh my goodness. That is so good. I think it's even better today than it was the day I made it. That dressing is so sharp. So Raw Chef Yin said, I went to Matthew Keeney Culinary Academy. We had to take off our chef's jackets every time we went to the restroom. But we didn't have to do any cleaning up. They had staff to do that. Yes, we could not wear our chef coats in the restroom. That's very true. Marilyn says, I enjoyed the conversation as much as the recipes. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm just talking. I don't mind sharing stories and talking because I think that makes it more interesting. I don't want to watch somebody just say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and then I'm going to do this. That's kind of boring. So I'm trying to make it more interesting for you. Diana says she bought her noodles for the japchae and she's excited to make this dish. Yeah, this dish is really delicious. It has plenty of vegetables and it's got bell peppers, it's got spice, it's got tofu for protein, and it's got the sweet potatoes and shiitake mushrooms. This is something that I could eat quite often. And somebody made this. I can't remember who made it. Kim Keenan made it. And she posted a picture of it. And she said that she had already mixed it up because right before you eat it, you mix it all up. And she said she was sorry that she didn't have before the neat version of it. And I said, it doesn't matter as long as you liked it. Lydia says she's going to the Asian market tomorrow to get those noodles. Good. Those noodles are fantastic. Just don't overcook them. Remember, they need to be a little bit al dente. And then we made pistachio energy balls. So I have those back. No, they're right here. So pistachio energy balls, this is raw, Chef Ian. These are raw. And they are so good. In my recipe, it says to toast the pistachios, but you don't have to toast them. You can just use raw pistachios You just turn them into a nut butter, add some dates, add some coconut, add some, I can't remember what else is in there, oatmeal, and then you're good. And these taste really good after they've been in the freezer. In fact, I think that improves them. They haven't been in the freezer yet. Okay, do the sweet potato noodles taste any different than glass rice noodles? Yes. Um, there are three kinds. There are other noodles. There are glass noodles that are made from mung bean or bean thread, and they're made from beans, and they're cellophane noodles. They're clear. And then there's rice noodles, and rice noodles are made from rice, and they're white, and that's what we used in the spring rolls. And then there is the chapche noodles, which are made from sweet potato starch, and they're dark. They're kind of gray, and they have a totally different kind of a feel. They're thicker, they're chewier than, let's say, the cellophane clear noodles or the rice noodles. So they're all different, and they all have a different kind of a profile. Diana made a rice dish today with miso sauce, and it was simple and delicious, just messing around in the kitchen. After owning my restaurant, sometimes I have the energy to create something that wows me. Well, I love any kind of rice dish with miso on it, so I'm sure that was really good. Keep it up. Create your own recipes. They're always the best. Okay, and then I made zucchini soup. And zucchini soup was from the Italian cookbook. And I have 4 servings left. So my friend Nancy Sirianni gave me these super cubes for Christmas. And so they're really good. They hold about a cup of soup, and they have a nice lid. And so what I can do is I can put this in the freezer, and then when I want 1 serving of soup, I just pop it right out of here. Isn't that handy? So that is my zucchini soup. And I tasted it earlier when I was putting it in this container, and I thought it still tasted great. It's just been in the refrigerator. It has such a nice mild flavor, but you can taste the zucchini and the onions, and it's really a good soup. It's not very strong. So if you're looking for a neutral soup, like if you're homesick with a cold, you can make the soup. It would taste really good because it doesn't have any really strong flavors. It would just be soothing. Christy says, I didn't have zucchini, so I used broccoli. It tasted great. Yeah, you can just put any vegetable in there. Okay, so we made that. And then I made the tomato soup. I don't have the order of when I made some of this. So the next day I made the tomato soup. And this is one of the best things that I made. I think Raw Chef Yin could make a version of tomato soup with fresh tomatoes. This one we cooked the tomatoes, but yeah, you can take tomatoes. I know I was listening to Lissa Maris talk about some raw books that have soups and stews, and she was saying that you blend things in the blender, and then that makes a warm soup. So, you could easily make a tomato soup using her recipe, but just don't cook it the way we cooked it. But anyway, it was really good. It has onions and basil, and there was something about the way she said to make the tomatoes that brought out the flavor in them. And it was that we cooked the tomatoes. We drained all the juice from the canned tomatoes, and they were San Marzano tomatoes, whole tomatoes. We drained all the juice, and then we took the whole tomatoes and put them in the pan, and we let them kind of dry out almost and mashed them. And they were with the onions and the garlic, and they created this really nice, very rich tomato flavor. So then my addition was to add some cashew cream and make it creamy tomato soup. But truthfully, it was just as good without the cream. I could have eaten it without adding the cashew cream. So if you don't want to put nuts in your food, follow that recipe. It was really good. I kept it and I made notes on it. And I even made the note not to try to get crushed tomatoes because I think the whole tomatoes have more flavor. Because I never had tomato soup that tasted that good that I made at home. So Diana says that tomato soup was so good. So Diana, did you make the tomato soup? I'm kind of curious because I thought it was great. And then we made grits, oat sausage, greens, and mung bean eggs. So I have all those still over here because that was pretty recently. I have the sausages. I think you can see all these things, can't you? So the plant-based sausage is made from oats and brown rice. They're always delicious. And the funny thing is these are good on the go. So sometimes when I'm running out the door, I grab a couple of these and they taste good just as they are because they're oatmeal and brown rice. So, use those as when you're traveling, that would be a good travel breakfast, a couple of those and some fruit. And then you kind of get your oatmeal. So I'm going to give the bundle link again just because a lot of people have come on since I started. Be sure and grab it because in a few hours it will be gone forever. So that was the oat sausage, and then we made mung bean eggs, and we used different ways to make it. One way was in the skillet, folded like an omelet, and then we used a muffin top pan in the oven at 350 for 10 minutes, and that turned out good. Well, that inspired me. That inspired me to get a new muffin pan on Amazon. And so I got one that was a little bit bigger. So these came in the mail today. And this will make this kind of omelet. But see, this is a 4-inch and this is a 6-inch. Because that was actually good. You didn't need any kind of, it didn't stick. Either it sticks to the silicone and then you wash it. But, 10 minutes, and it did take 10 minutes. I've tried less, but really 10 minutes is probably about the right time to cook them in the silicone muffin top pans. And for those of you who don't know it, I have an Amazon store called the Bundle 2025. So you can just go on there and order anything that I've used to make anything in the bundle. I've tried to put it in that idea list so that you can find it. Terry says, look at all that deliciousness on your tabletops. Thank you for all that you've shared. And this isn't even all of it. This is just some of it. And then I made grits. For those of you who don't know about grits, I showed you all the steps to make grits from some whole grain grits. Is that muffin pan on your Amazon store? Yes, it is. It's a 4-inch silicone muffin top pan. The grits turned out really good. And then I made the greens. So these are kind of like simmered Southern style greens with vegetable broth, onions, garlic, and some super greens that have chard, spinach, kale. And I took a little bite of these when I was plating them, and they tasted good cold right out of the refrigerator. I thought, man, I need to eat those greens for breakfast tomorrow, just cold. So we made that, and that was a really good breakfast. I had that yesterday, and after the video, I enjoyed a few bites of everything. And one thing that Tammy Kramer on Nutmeg Notebook said that her husband got really excited about is he wanted an Egg McMuffin sandwich. So what she did was she took a Ezekiel English muffin and put one of my oat sausages and one of these mung bean omelets on the Ezekiel English muffin, and he was so excited because she said he hadn't had anything that was like tasted of an egg, kind of a flavor profile since they went vegan, and he kind of missed that. So it kind of gives you the I hate to say it mimics something that we don't really eat, but it's just kind of a nice savory taste. What temperature did you set the oven for the mung bean egg? It was 350. So that turned out really good. I was very pleased with that. And then later that day, I made Tammy Kramer's cheese and crackers. So I have been sampling this. Let me put it right here and you can see it. Maybe I can give you a closer up view of it. It was really good. And I didn't taste it the first day. You can kind of see it. It's made from tofu and some cashews, jalapeno peppers, and then the pita chips are just pita bread that I just cut into squares or triangles and then heated them in a 400-degree oven for about 6 minutes. 350 for 10 minutes. I don't know how to pay for the bundle. Paul, if you follow the bundle link, and it will tell you, it will give you all these choices of how to pay for it. It doesn't come through PayPal. It could be through any credit card, but you have to pay online. So it gives you a choice and it lets you pick whatever way you want to pay. Isn't that right? For those of you who bought it, you had your choice of how to pay for it. Somebody respond and let him know. Okay, so with the cheese and crackers, that ebook that Tammy Kramer and Shada have is full of dips, kind of cream cheesy kinds of things, like this, which is jalapeno lime. Well, this one's by Shada Salamani, I think is her last name. And there were a whole bunch of other ones, including some sweet dips for dessert, some guacamole, salsas. So if you want some salsa recipes, yes, so you can choose any form of payment. So if you're looking for salsa recipes, and if you bought the bundle, well, look in Tammy Kramer's cream cheese and crackers book. So I tried this earlier because, she said let it set up for 24 hours. Laura says, I just used a credit card, but there was also a PayPal option, but you don't have to use PayPal. Okay, so I tasted it. And it's really good. It's so spicy. Oh my goodness. I made it a little too spicy. I put a crap load of jalapeno peppers in it. And I made the mistake of, it said, oh, Tammy made a chocolate hummus. I made the mistake of, it said to hold the chopped up pickled jalapenos on the side. And then after you process all the cream cheese or all the tofu and cashews, then when it's all done, add the jalapenos. Well, I added them when it was processing, so it's very hot. It tastes really good though. I think I'm going to take this tomorrow to my friend and give her like half of it because I don't think it says that you can freeze it, but I don't think I will like it once it's frozen. I just don't think I will. Plus, I'll probably forget to eat it if it's in the freezer. I have way too much stuff in there. But I think this is a really good dish. I highly recommend you make that. And then we made tofu scramble and tofu scramble fried rice. So typical tofu scramble. And I made my version of it, which I'll show you a close-up of it. I think it's good. I mean, I love my tofu scramble. It has all kinds of vegetables in it. I showed cooking techniques on how to make it so that it is nice textured. It's not watery, because the biggest cooking mistake I see for tofu scramble is people put a bunch of water in it. And then I made fried rice by adding cabbage and other vegetables and the tofu scramble. So those are staple items in my household because I love tofu. So it's easy for me to make tofu scramble any day of the week. And then I can take the leftover tofu scramble, put it in tacos, make the tofu scramble fried rice. And somebody asked today if you can eat tofu raw. And yes, you can, because it's already cooked. It's made from cooked soy milk. So you can eat cubes of tofu with a sauce on it. And I bet Raw Chef Yin eats raw tofu. I like all the good tips you gave for your tofu scramble demo. Thank you. That's from Raw Chef Yin. Laura says, I don't like spicy, but if I remove the seeds and the white membrane from the jalapenos, would that reduce the spiciness? Yes, that would. And just don't use as much. Just use a smaller amount. Christy said, I made the tofu scramble and fried rice for lunch. It was really good. Great. So remember, the main cooking technique out of that was to chop your vegetables small and cook them till they're nice and soft. Because the big thing that I see a lot of times is people they'll undercook onions and vegetables because they throw a bunch of water in the pan, they kind of boil them, and they start adding stuff, and they end up with this soupy, unflavored kind of thing. And then they say, well, I don't like this plant-based food because it doesn't taste very good. Well, some of it is just cooking techniques. Paul asked, do you make your own tofu? No, I don't, because it's really hard. It's a lot of work. I've done it before, and for a lot of work, you get the yield of a small block of tofu, and it's like, nope, not going to do it. I'll just buy it. But, it's a project. Let's see. Partaz says, anyone know how many bundle items need to be looked at right away? No, there's nothing that expires anymore. We don't have that anymore. Everything is good. Nothing has any kind of take the course now or it's going to expire. We just stopped doing that. Rosh Effian says, I had to make my own tofu for my Food Future Institute demo and I ate it. Wouldn't cook it any further. It was the best tofu I've eaten, but I'm lazy to make my own tofu from scratch. TS says, can you explain what tofu sheets are and what they're used for? Trader Joe's has a box of tofu sheets in the freezer section. Gail, I would have to see them. I think they might be made from the remains of when you make tofu and you have leftover, I can't remember the name of what that's called, but it's like the what's left after you produce the tofu, okara, I think it is. And maybe they kind of make sheets from that. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. I've never made that. Angie says, have you ever made your own yogurt? No, but I have friends who make it, and they make it in the Instant Pot, and they swear by it. But I'm not a big yogurt eater because I use my plant-based milk for things like putting in oatmeal and that kind of thing. So I don't really use yogurt anymore. But I know that I could make it. Tuba, Spice Island Vegan said tuba. Describe what tofu skins are, Debbie. I'm not sure I know. Then let's see, I made sushi with chickpea filling. So that was something that I made today, and I showed it to you earlier. And then I just spontaneously made the rice balls. So tofu sheets are yuba. And how is yuba made? I really don't know. Okay, so if you like sushi, I'm going to eat a piece of the sushi. It's going to take me a minute to chew it because I have to put the whole piece in my mouth, but that's what you do. You just put the whole piece in your mouth. Mm. Okay, so someone corrected me. That was so good. They said Dr. McDougall's videos must be downloaded soon. They do have a time limit. Okay, well, that's the only one I know of then. Okay, the skin on top from boiling soy milk. So it is something that's used in the process of making soy milk or making tofu. So that's what it is. And no, I don't use it. All right, then after the sushi, today we made the peanut butter brownie, and I'm going to take some of it because we never sampled it, we never cut it. And I brought my serrated knife. So then what we can do is we can see how it looks when it's cut. It's had plenty of time to sit here and cool off. They're really thin sheets. That's because of how they're made. So we're going to take a piece of this cake and put it on a plate. Good thing I got plenty of these plates out. I just knew that I was going to need a lot of these plates for some reason. Okay. So then you can see that this really does look like a cake. It looks like a chocolate cake. Belinda says, I bought some tofu sheets from Trader Joe's. Their only ingredients are soybeans and water. You can add it to stir fry soups or use as a wrapper. I noticed that they are not organic. Okay, well, maybe I'll try them sometime. Okay, so I'm going to taste the peanut butter brownies that we made today. Very dense. Those are very rich. But if you like a rich chocolate dessert, a little piece of that will go a long way. And what I'm going to do with that is tomorrow when I see my friend, I am going to cut a bunch of that and put it in a container and take it to her because I can freeze it, but look, I don't need that much stuff in the freezer, right? Oh, and I forgot about the travel soup. So I have some of the travel soup here. It doesn't look that appetizing, kind of cold like this, but it still tastes good, and I'm going to put it in my freezer. This was the soup I made from Janet Ricky's book, The Plant-Powered Peddler, and it was made in a mini rice pot, like an electric rice cooker. And I cut up a bunch of vegetables and put them in there and cooked it. And it was so cool because it's a tiny little rice cooker. And the soup tasted great. And once I'm through with all the bundle stuff and my palate is back to normal, then I can enjoy the regular tasting food. Right now, I've been eating so much rich food that, I don't, everything tastes kind of, you know, bland. It's not rich food right now. Did you decide on the curry burger fritters? What do you mean, did I decide on them? Like, I think I messed them up because I changed his recipe. So that's what I get for messing with his recipe. It was probably fine. I thought it needed more oat flour, and so I put extra oat flour in it. And then I think that made it too, it made it too dense. So then I messed it up and I did something else to it. Oh, I put greens in it. So I think if you make the curry burgers, make it the way he says to make it, because by the time I got through with them, they were kind of a little bit too dense. They taste okay, but I think it's because I messed up his recipe, not because he has a bad recipe. So I think, okay, did I leave anything out? So you guys tell me. I think that's everything. I have the energy balls, the grits, the tomato soup, tofu scramble, sushi, and the peanut butter brownies. Did I like them? No, I didn't like them very much because I messed up his recipe. And I think that's why I didn't really like them, because, I didn't stick with his recipe. And so I made them to where they were kind of on the dense side. So, they weren't that good, but I think I messed them up. So yes, this is very, very rich. So I would say get a small piece. And that's what's good about it though, because you can enjoy the small piece with a cup of dandy blend or a cup of herbal tea or green tea, and just enjoy, savor every bite of any of these things. Like, I don't really feel the need to overeat my plant-based sweets. To me, they're fine, but I don't feel like eating a dozen of these cookies because they're just not that rich. Diane Peacock says they are made from delicate tofu film that forms during the production of soy milk and primarily composed of soy protein and water. The films are collected and dried. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Diane. That's very helpful. What would be a good substitution for seaweed for the sushi? I don't like the fishy taste of nori. First of all, if you get a really good quality nori, it doesn't have a fishy taste. But if you really don't like nori at all, you can always make sushi with spring roll wrappers or the rice paper wrappers, like you wet them just like you were making spring rolls, and then you can put rice in them. So you can just use that. You can use soy wrappers, but soy wrappers have oil in them, so we can't really recommend them, but they are a substitute for seaweed. You can use lettuce leaves. Then you're not really making sushi, but you can put your sushi ingredients inside a lettuce leaf and eat it kind of as a wrap. Or if you just like all the sushi ingredients without the seaweed, you can make deconstructed sushi, meaning just take your sushi rice, put it in a bowl, and put whatever toppings, like the chickpea spread, you can just put some of that in your bowl, and then put some, scallions or some lettuce or something in there and make yourself a bowl. Where do you have your corn casserole recipe? I can't remember what you said. The corn casserole recipe is in the Thanksgiving feast packet. It's a class I taught in 2022. So look on my website, chef-julia.com, and go to the shop section, and you'll see about 60 classes that I've taught since 2020. And scroll until you find one called Thanksgiving Feast. And that class has corn casserole, sweet potato casserole, green bean casserole, dressing, gravy, mashed potatoes, holiday loaf, pumpkin pie, pecan pie. It has everything you need for Thanksgiving. Is anyone else having problems downloading to Dr. McDougall? I go to checkout and it tells me there's an error with the payment method. I have not heard that from anybody, but send me an email in the next couple days and I can refer you to the bundle help desk, because we have an email we can send people to that are having problems with the bundle, and they'll respond. So send me an email. Wait, give me a couple of days because I have so many things to catch up on tomorrow. Um, see, Ree K says, I had the same thing happen, but go back and check your email and it should be there. Okay, so I think you just have to go back and check your email and it shows up. All right, so um, I do not like nori, but that was such a helpful response about alternatives. Yeah, and try a good quality nori. Like when I did my demo, I showed an example of a really high quality nori because I've come in contact with some nori they sell in grocery stores, and the brand is always kind of like a gimme, Gimme, and that nori tastes terrible. It does taste fishy. It tastes weird. And so I think when I've tried that, I think, well, if anybody doesn't know about nori and eats this, they're going to never want to eat it again because it didn't taste good. I'm not drinking tea. I'm drinking water tonight. I've had enough tea over the past 10 days. I've had green tea, turmeric tea, chai tea, all decaf, tons of wild orange, sweet tea, sweet wild orange tea. I've had every kind of tea you can imagine. Do you use raw nori? Well, I use roasted nori, but I'm sure Chef Yin knows about raw nori because I know in Lissa Maris's book, she talks about using a raw nori and making a nori wrap. So there must be a raw nori out there. The kind that we usually get is roasted, and that's kind of the typical nori. Somebody suggested I call my dog Nori because he's black like seaweed. And then somebody else said to call him Wasabi. And actually, my daughter suggested we call him Yuki, which means snow because he has snow-tipped paws and he's got white on his chest. And Yuki also means happiness in Japanese. And we could do with some happiness around here, so I think we're going to call him Yuki. But Nori wouldn't have been a bad name for him. Christy says it was in her email and she's downloading it now. Thanks for the help. Great. Okay, so we've tasted all the food, so now I'm going to start answering questions. Does anybody remember any food that I made this week that we don't have on display here? Because I think I covered everything we made. I think I did. And then look at my dessert feast for later. Once I get done with the bundle stuff, then I'll sit down and I'll have this dessert. Maybe some of it. I didn't really eat dinner. I had a little bowl of tomato soup, which was so good. Please make that tomato soup. You'll love it. Okay, so I ask everybody to give me some questions for tonight so that we could continue to talk and see if anybody else wants to join, because some people could never join me during the daytime because they worked at that time. They weren't available. And some people couldn't join me at 6 o'clock because they had family obligations, practices for kids, meetings they had to attend, and they just couldn't make it at 6 o'clock. So I thought I would do something later so the people who couldn't attend the early live streams could attend. So that's why I'm doing such a late one. Plus, it's the last night of the bundle. And it kind of reminded me of doing, Lydia says, I like that name. It's spelled, yeah, Y-U-K-I. I hope nobody looks at that and says yucky, because the Japanese pronunciation is Yuki. What type of cuisine is your favorite? I know you love Asian, but just curious. That's from Rike. My favorite food is Japanese. And I also love Korean food a lot. I love spicy Korean tofu stew and Korean barbecue made with tofu and Korean vegetables made banchan, different things you eat before a meal. I love Thai food. So I'd say my top 3 foods are all Asian. My website is chef-julia.com. So chef, the little dash, julia.com. And if you Google my name, tons of stuff will pop up and you'll find me easily. Not bundle related, but you are so interesting. Do you or your children speak Japanese? Well, none of my children do, and I took Japanese language classes when I lived in Japan, and I could speak it when I lived over there, but remember, I'm 70, and that was 50 years ago. So no, I don't really speak it now. However, I went to Japan in October, and using Google Translate, Google Lens, listening to people carefully, I could still kind of remember to read certain things and I could understand things. So, a lot of it came back to me. But if you don't use it, you lose it. So, yes, I would love to learn how to speak Japanese. But here's the thing, when my parents got married in the 50s, the early 50s, it was right after World War II. And Japanese people were not very popular in America. So when my father brought my mother to North Carolina, where he was from, people were very kind of negative toward her. In fact, they didn't want her to go out in public. They didn't want the kids, my brother and I, to be seen in public because we looked Oriental at the time. I know if you look at me, you don't think I look very Asian, but when I was a child, compared to other kids around me, I looked very Asian because my skin is kind of olive and my eyes, if you can look under my glasses, my eyes are kind of almond shaped and, no eyelids, kind of, very Asian eyes. So I look different from the other kids. And so my grandparents were like, don't take them out because we don't want people to say anything. And so my father told my mother, do not teach my children Japanese because they're Americans and I don't want them to be mistaken for Japanese people. So she was told not to teach us. She could have taught us when we were little. That would have been so helpful. So that was kind of the mood back in the 50s in America toward the Japanese people. And sometimes when she would go places, she was not welcome in businesses. So my father would have to go in and ask them. He would say, my wife is Japanese. Is it okay if I bring her in here? And sometimes they would say, no, Japanese are not welcome in this store because the Japanese people attacked America. So a lot of people didn't ever forgive that. And I even remember as an adult being somewhere and people talking about dirty Japs in a store somewhere when I was in my 20s. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was 20 years ago. Okay, if I don't have runny peanut butter, will regular peanut butter work? Peanuts and salt, will that be too thick? Well, what I would do is I would thin it down a little bit with some plant milk. If you feel like it's really pasty and thick, because the peanut butter I use is kind of tends to be a little bit on the soft side, especially since the peanut butter I've been using hasn't been in the refrigerator. So it's been kind of very warm. Once it's in the refrigerator, it does tend to get solid. Let it sit out at room temperature for a while. And if you need to, you can add a little bit of almond milk and thin it down. Okay, will you be creating any new recipes from your last trip to Japan? I've always been curious about their breakfasts. Well, in my Japanese book, there is a whole section on Japanese breakfast. And what I did in there is I created a typical Japanese breakfast. And there's a whole picture of everything you would find in a Japanese breakfast. It's kind of in the back. And it has, instead of grilled fish, it has tofu, pickled cucumbers, some sour plum, rice, miso soup. But you see all these dishes? There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different dishes. And there's even natto, which is fermented soybeans, which I have a bunch of those. And they are very different. You have to love natto to eat it. It is a very kind of one of those, what do you call that? An acquired taste. I don't really like it. Okay, Monica says, my father and his parents lived through that because they were German. So sad for many. My peanut butter, I'm so sorry to hear that, Monica. Yeah, there were people of German descent were also placed in internment camps during World War II. A lot of people don't know that, but we had some internment camps in America, and they exchanged people from Germany, and then they put them in these internment camps. So that was, something a lot of people don't know about. What brand of peanut butter, please? Terry asks. And I don't know if you can get it around here. It's called Nut, N-U-T, and then N, butter. So Nut and butter. And it's something I get in the local store here, but it's very kind of a smooth, even the chunky has kind of got a real nice texture. I don't know what else you could use. Just, you just have to kind of experiment with different brands and see what you like. Okay, so Terry, if you go to Costco, you'll be able to find a good peanut butter. Sure, so Costco peanut butter is good. And as long as it doesn't have anything but peanuts and some salt, maybe, you're good. Just don't get the kind that have palm oil or stabilizers or weird additives, sugar, because some of them do. How do you reheat your creamy grits? So what I would do with these grits is two things. I don't mind using a microwave, so I can just put a half a cup in a microwave safe bowl and add a little bit of hot water to them, maybe just a couple tablespoons to thin them down a little bit, and then put them in for 30 seconds, stir them, put them back for another 20 seconds. Also, you can't go wrong with, using a saucepan and just put your serving in there. Again, add a little bit of water because they tend to get thick in the refrigerator. So then you just, simmer them slowly with a little extra water, and then you have perfect grits. I found Smucker's Naturals Organic. So that could be good. There's no one good brand of anything. And depending on what part of the country you live in, the brand you're using, the brand I use may not be available to you. So I just say find something that you like. Thank you for all your great recipes. That's from Hoff J. Great, thank you. And if you haven't gotten the bundle yet, it's going to expire here in a few hours, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. For me, that's 2 a.m. I am not going to be up at 2 a.m. checking on the bundle. Trust me. When I'm done with this, I'm done with the bundle. I'll probably post one more thing tonight about what I cooked today, and that's going to be the end of it. Okay, so other questions. Somebody earlier wanted to know how I made rice pasta style. This is something I do all the time. So I get brown rice. I buy brown rice from the bulk section or wherever I can get it, real high quality organic brown rice. And I usually get short grain brown rice because I just like that better. But any brown rice, you can do the same thing. And get a big pot, like, a 6-quart pot, and fill it full, 3/4 full with water. Bring the water to a boil and then add the rice. And then once the rice is in there, boil it for like 30 minutes in a full thing of water. And then you start checking the rice at about 30 minutes. And when it's just done, kind of still has a little bite to it, not soft, but not hard, then it's done. It usually takes about 30 to 35 minutes. Then you strain all that rice in a colander. And then you take the colander, shake out the water, put the rice back in the pot, cover it with the lid, and let it sit for 10 minutes. And that kind of steams the rice and opens it up a little bit. And then you have fluffy, delicious brown rice. And that's also a way to reduce any kind of arsenic or something that could be on the surface of your rice. I didn't quit eating rice because of possible contamination, but a lot of people don't believe that rice is safe to eat. But if they do, what they do say is, if you are going to eat rice, cook it pasta style, because all that boiling water removes any residue on the rice, and then you drain it away. It's not cooked in the water. So try that pasta method. Okay, here in Vancouver, the Japanese had everything taken from them, and they were also sent to internment camps for many years. What an awful time. Yes, Angie, there are people in the United States that don't know about the 100 and however many, 150,000 Japanese Americans that were put in internment camps. Because sometimes I'll bring it up because I've read everything about internment camps during World War II. And, sometimes it'll come up in conversation and people will say, well, I wasn't aware of that. And I was like, well, it happened. And people had, in California, they would have these thriving farms. And, they were just told to report to a station, a bus terminal, and they were taken away. And somebody took their farm and they never got it back. So, it was very tragic. And some of the people were American citizens. It didn't matter. As long as they had Japanese ancestry, they were still locked up in internment camps, some of them for the whole duration of the war. So really sad story. That didn't happen to any of my family because my mother came after World War II. But if you were here in 1941 and you were Japanese and lived in Washington State, California, Oregon, all along the coast, everybody was subject to that executive order and told to report to these camps. Okay, does the pasta style of cooking rice work for white rice too? I guess it would. I never use it for white rice because I don't use white rice very often. And when I do, it's Japanese rice and I cook it in the rice cooker. But try it. It probably doesn't take as long as brown rice. Okay. Lydia wanted to know, how do you roast vegetables without oil? I don't think she's oil free yet. So she doesn't, she probably still thinks you need to use oil. There's Lydia. Oh, and some people don't believe in the Holocaust, right? I've heard people say that there's a group of people that say the Holocaust never happened, even though there's a lot of evidence. So I find that hard to believe. Okay, roasting vegetables. Roasting vegetables without oil. I taught a class, it was called Plant-Based Grilling, and it was back in 2023, I believe, and it's on my website under shop section, under all the classes. And in the grilling class, I talked about how you can grill vegetables without oil successfully. And what you do is you slice up all your vegetables, your zucchini, your bell peppers, onions, carrots, potatoes, anything you want to use, slice it up, but slice it kind of thick because when you put stuff on the grill, if it's too thin, it kind of disintegrates. And then what you do is you make a broth. Someone said they put aquafaba on their vegetables, so you could do that. You have to make your vegetables wet. You can use aquafaba, which is the juice from chickpeas, canned chickpeas, or what I do is I use vegetable broth and I add a little tahini to it. So I'll take a bowl and I'll put vegetable stock or broth in it. I'll add a squirt of tahini. I'll add some fresh chopped up garlic, some kind of seasoning like, 21 seasoning blend or whatever, Italian seasoning or garlic pepper, vamp pepper from Fresh Jack, something that I like the taste of. And I mix that together. And then I put that in a Ziploc bag or a shallow container with my vegetable slices and let them marinate in that tahini flavored broth. And then I get the grill really hot, make sure it's really clean. So, scrape it off because if your grill is dirty, then it's going to get on your vegetables. So I make the grill really clean. And then I put the vegetables on the hot grill and they'll cook just fine. They develop grill marks. They taste delicious. And you have to keep a close eye on them because they do take some time. So you have to cook them on kind of a low, medium heat. Don't think you can put them on a high heat because what will happen is they'll get charred, but they'll be raw inside. So I found like a medium low heat on the grill works really good and kind of cook them low and slow and let them get cooked. And then you can turn the heat up and let them get a little bit of color. But, in the plant-based world, a lot of the plant-based experts say, don't get your char marks on your food because that creates a cancer carcinogen kind of a product by getting things with grill marks. So really, you don't really need to get heavy grill marks, just very light. You can also roast them in the oven. So in the summertime, I like to grill them on the grill because everybody else is outside. We have a nice outside patio, pool, and all that stuff, and they want to grill their stuff. So I want to grill something. I want to grill my own fajitas, vegetables, tofu, potatoes, whatever. So the grill is my grill. I'm the griller. My husband doesn't touch the grill. So it's my grill and it's a nice grill. So I go out there, I get my grill nice and hot and clean, and then I grill all my vegetables and stuff and I set them aside, keep them warm in the oven, and then everybody else cooks their stuff. However, you can also put your marinated vegetable on a sheet tray in a hot oven. I think Diana says 450 degrees. It could be 400, 425, 450. She says for 25 minutes. That sounds fine. And then you just cook them and turn them about halfway through and they're perfect. Marilyn says, I'm here in California and recently visited the Manzanar site. Yes, that's one of the camps. It's a site where Japanese Americans were incarcerated during the war. It was very educational and heartbreaking. I have read books about Mansonar, and one thing about the Japanese that were interned during World War II is they were so resourceful. They turned those prison the internment camps into beautiful places. They grew fruits and vegetables and they made gardens and they did all kinds of stuff to make it really nice there. They didn't just sit there and suffer and have a bad attitude. They decided to make the best of it and they made them really beautiful places. Can you just use the liquid from chickpeas done in the Instapot? I guess you could because that's the aquafaba from your cooked chickpeas. I don't know why it would be any different. So try it. It just needs to be a liquid. And the chickpea liquid has protein in it. So, that's like the tahini liquid that has protein in it and a little bit of a kind of a rich flavor. So any of those liquids, the thing is, you cannot dry cook food that doesn't use oil and get it to turn out good. So it's like if you put a bunch of vegetables in the oven is a dry heat method. And if you put your vegetables in the oven with nothing on them, they're just going to be dry, hard, and taste terrible. So they need moisture. Same thing with potatoes. Like if you're going to cook your potatoes in the air fryer, you can simmer them in water first, like say French fries. Simmer them for 5 minutes in water, then put them in the air fryer. And the moisture from putting them in the water will make them turn out so much better when you air fry them. Just one of my tips that I use. Okay, um, let's see. Barbara says, when I roast vegetables in the oven, if they start to look dry, I spray vegetable stock on them. That's another good idea, Barbara. That works fine. You just have to introduce moisture to them because they're going to be dry if you just put them in the oven with nothing on them. Um, Debbie Knight was asking about caramelized onions without oil. And that one is pretty easy because really all you need is a skillet and sliced onions, and you just put them in a single layer, put about 2 or 3 tablespoons of water in there, and put them on kind of medium heat. And you can cover them with the lid, and you can just keep turning them. The thing about it is it will take about 40 minutes to caramelize the onions that way. They will eventually get caramelized, but you're going to have to really keep messing with them for a long time, and that does work. Anthea Phillips says, I'm 65 and never learned about the internment camps until I heard George Takei from Star Trek talk about them. Thank you for sharing. Yes, he was in an internment camp. And he has a big Facebook following now, and he talks about that all the time. So yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people that just didn't hear about it when they were growing up because I was born in 1954. So people in my age group, we know about stuff that happened during World War II because we weren't too far removed from it. But, people after us, they may never have heard of any of this stuff. Diana said, I usually bake my potatoes in bulk and refrigerate them. And when I want potatoes, they're already cooked. Spray with aquafaba, season them, and bake. That's a good idea. That works great. I've tried that too. Okay, so caramelized onions, just low and slow, add more water or vegetable broth as you're cooking them and just be really patient. So it takes a long time. Have you always been vegan? No, I didn't become vegan until 2017, partially in 2018, 100%. And that was because of health reasons, because I was struggling with being overweight, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. And I had read a lot of stuff about the blue zones. And I thought, okay, I need to be 90% plant-based so that I can live to be 100. And I was fascinated by Okinawa, which has a large population of 100-year-old centenarians. So I started following the blue zones way of eating with occasional fish or meat or whatever. And then in 2018, I went 100%. Let's see. Ree K says, have you ever watched Miyoko Shinner's YouTube cooking videos? Yes, I've watched her videos. She's really fascinating. She's Japanese, from Japanese ancestry. And she founded that whole cheese company, which is now not her cheese company anymore, but she's doing a lot of other stuff now. And I think she's great. Very, very smart woman. Okay, so Would I ever go back to not being plant-based? No, because I really like the way I feel. And I think those of you I showed you earlier when I was not plant-based, and there's pictures in the back of my book, it's interesting that even though I was younger, when I look at the pictures of the younger me, I see an older woman. I see kind of an unhappy middle-aged woman who doesn't feel good about herself. And that's exactly how I felt. I kind of felt like, I was not happy with my physical appearance, how I felt. I always felt like if I could only lose 20 pounds, then I would be happy. And I could never do it. I would lose it, gain it back, lose it, gain it back. So, I'm glad now that I don't have to go up and down. Okay, Gail says, I learned about the camps due to all my German relatives, most in Kansas. Some got out. Some got sent to the camps because of the war. The ones that didn't speak English stayed in hiding on their farms. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in our history that some of us don't know about. It's kind of fascinating and very tragic. Let's see. What is a good substitute for nutritional yeast? So I went and got some things out. And nutritional yeast, some people don't like it. And that's fine. I understand that because I used to not like it. Well, my dry miso powder is a good substitute for nutritional yeast. It's just made from soybeans, rice, salt, and water. And a little goes a long way. And this is in the Amazon store for the bundle under Chef Julia Amazon store. That's really good. Miso nooch is not made from nutritional yeast. It's made from chickpea miso, brown rice koji, and organic chickpeas. It's just called miso nooch, but it's not nutritional yeast. It has a really good taste similar to what you get out of nutritional yeast, but it's not nutritional yeast. So try that. And then the other thing is Taki umami powder, which is made from ground up shiitake mushrooms. So mushrooms can have a very similar taste to nutritional yeast. So use those three things. Diane says she batch cooks potatoes. Penny asks, have you ever added miso to gravy? Probably don't have much gravy, but I found a recipe in the bundle for a miso gravy from Fawn Sear. Yes, I have added miso to gravy, and it is good. And I'm sure a little miso powder would be good. Yeah, because miso imparts a little bit of that salty earthiness. Oh, and I was going to show you this, how I packaged up my leftover Japanese mayo. And this is what I do. I put it in the freezer like this in a single layer. So it's 5 containers of Japanese mayo. And I can take them if I'm going out to a restaurant. The Japanese mayo makes a really good salad dressing. It's what we used in the sushi. That was chickpeas with Japanese mayo. And so what I do with that is I grab one of these and I put it in a Ziploc bag. And then I put it in my purse. Don't just put it in your purse like this because it could pop open. It's happened. And then when I get to the restaurant, I have my dressing. And I know it's plastic and it's, disposable, but when you're going out, you don't want to take something that you have to wash. But if you don't want to use disposable stuff, you can get some of these little reusable containers or glass jars or whatever you like, reusable glass jelly jars, anything you want to use. But I get these, you can get them in Walmart. They're like shot cups, okay? So they sell these and they hold about 2 tablespoons of salad dressing. And I always have these around because chefs use them for sauces when you give people dinners and you're not going to get your stuff back. So you put it in disposable packaging. Sandra says, I've never heard of miso powder. What are the sodium variations between that and miso paste? Miso paste has a lot more sodium. So miso powder is not as high as salt. Lydia says, I have 2 Japanese books from your previous 2 bundles, but now I'm going to get the one that you published also. Great. Okay, so it has 280 milligrams of sodium for a teaspoon. So I think a tablespoon of miso probably has about 1,000 milligrams of sodium, maybe 900. So it's about the same. But the difference is this is very concentrated. And you don't need, doesn't seem like you need as much as you do miso. So a teaspoon would work to impart the same amount of flavor as a tablespoon of miso. So I think that's where you get your savings of sodium. That's my opinion anyway. But it's very good. Um, Diana says, smart, bring your own dressings. I always bring my own dressings because, if I go out to a restaurant, they're never going to have any dressings I like. I'll have to use lemon, or I could bring vinegar. I have a bunch of these little vinegars, these little California balsamic vinegars, and those travel well too, like teriyaki balsamic and hickory smoke. But I'm not a vinegar lover. So I'm more of a person who likes creamy stuff more than I like vinegars. So, I'm more likely to enjoy the creamy mayonnaise kind of things. Where did you get your darling denim chef coat? And do you have to be a chef to get one? Oh, Melanie, that's from the company is called Lost Car, like car that you drive, Chef Apparel. And it's in Huntington Beach, California. Uh, Anybody can wear a chef coat because being a chef is not a protected title. So you don't have to be licensed by the state or certified by anybody to call yourself a chef. So you don't have to be um, a certified chef to wear a chef coat either. So you can get your own chef coat and wear it. But it's called Lost Car Chef Apparel. And you can give them your logo or your name. They'll put your name on it, kind of like this. This is my logo. And they put that on my chef coat. And I got, I have all these t-shirts with my logo, which I like to wear. Okay, somebody wanted to know, I think about how to prepare tempeh. Uh, let's see, Diana says, so sad for me, I have gastritis and can't have vinegar or citrus. So that's where you would probably be better off to make your own creamy kind of dressings and bring them with you. You can make cashew-based dressings and you don't have to put any citrus in them at all. Okay, so tempeh is a less processed form of soy product. Tofu is been processed a little bit more. Tempeh is very kind of thicker, coarser. You can see the soybeans in it. It's a lot stronger tasting. So you have to really develop a taste for it. So the way that I get around, I don't really love it personally. The way you get around the strong taste of it is steam it. Like put it in a steamer, and steaming it for about 10 minutes seems to mellow it out. And then after you steam it, you can cut it or crumble it, marinate it, saute it in a pan without oil, bake it in the oven, do whatever you want with it, and then use the crumbles or the slices of tempeh just like you would tofu. Tempeh sandwiches are pretty good because tempeh has a rich taste, and it's kind of like you're eating like what you might have thought of as a sandwich meat. It has that kind of meaty texture. So tempeh is very popular, and use the same marinades that we use for tofu in my recipes. Okay, Sandra L. wanted to know about kimchi, store-bought kimchi, and I brought my favorite type. I got it out of the refrigerator because I don't make kimchi because for me it has a high salt content, and I don't really want to eat a lot of it because it's something that I could eat a lot of if I'm not careful. So I get this kimchi from the grocery store. It's very crunchy and spicy, and it's really good. It's called Scotty's. And make sure it says vegan kimchi because, oh man, that was hot and so good. I love kimchi. The thing is, if I have kimchi, I'll eat a lot of it if I make my own. So I have to kind of just eat small portions of it. It's kind of high in sodium. Um, Traditional kimchi is often made with fish products. So make sure your kimchi says vegan on it because then it's not made with dried shrimp or whatever is used in kimchi. I found some stainless 2 tablespoon size containers with silicone lids at Amazon that I use to take dressings. Great. And Penny says, I have a chef coat. It's fun to wear while cooking. Yeah, anybody can wear a chef coat. So that's my kimchi. Salsa brands, I cannot tell you a salsa brand because most of them have a lot of salt. And I do have some salsa recipes. If you look at my YouTube channel, look in the Chipotle at Home video, there's some good salsas in there. Salt substitutes. The salt substitutes, tempeh can also be made with chickpeas. That's Vivian says, yes, there's just like tofu can be made with chickpeas now. Salt substitutes. Local spicery has salacious is a salt substitute. I forgot to bring it in here, but that is. But really my salt substitutes that I use most often now are these two things. The miso nooch or the miso powder. Those two things work really well. Put them on the surface of your food and it tastes like you're putting salt on it. So I use those two things. And then salacious works pretty well. I don't ever use Benson's Table Tasty, but some people swear by that. So you can try that. Diana says, I'm 66 and having a lot of hard time losing weight. What sort of exercise do you recommend for a person in a wheelchair? You know, Diana, I'm not sure. I think they have classes that you can take that are classes where you can sit and exercise from a chair. Um, I would have to do some research. I really don't know. Jill says Raw Chef Yin has a recipe for kimchi in her Korean barbecue ebook. Really? She's probably not on anymore. But I'll have to look at Raw Chef Yin's recipe for kimchi. I bet it's good. I'm going to look it up. Raw Chef Yin's kimchi in the bundle. Okay, I'll definitely look it up. It's probably delicious because she's a good chef. I have tried to make kimchi and I've made really good kimchi, but it makes a lot. And if you see the amount of sodium, the salt that you have to use in kimchi, you're kind of like, ooh, that's a lot. So if you have one that doesn't absorb as much sodium, that would be okay. Terry says my husband Steve served in Korea for 2 years and is addicted to kimchi. He makes his own vegan rendition now. Cool. Raw Chef Yin says there's a Napa cabbage kimchi and a cucumber kimchi in the Korean barbecue. I'm going to have to look at that. I'm going to look at that tomorrow. That sounds good. I'd probably make yours and try it. How much sodium, what's the sodium content of it, Yin? Just out of curiosity. Okay, we'll give her time to answer. Let's see. How do you store your spices and herbs? She showed how to make cubed radish kimchi, kakdugi, on Chef AJ recently on Thursday. So you can look at that. Yeah, I saw that. That looked really delicious. Here in Chicago on PBS, I've seen a show called Sit and Stretch. Okay, that's good. Monica says, have a great evening. Thanks for all the info and inspiration. Thanks, Monica. We're getting this done. Christy, I got the miso nooch from Amazon and I put it in my bundle Amazon page called the Bundle 2025. So be sure and grab your bundle. It's going to end in just a few hours. So how do you store spices and herbs? Okay, first of all, my spices are all sitting over here on this shelf. Not very fancy, but you can see them all over here. I'll point them out. Right here are all my spices. And that's because I don't have a cabinet big enough for all my spices. So I've got them sitting in this. But the thing is, I use them all. Yin says you can do 2% salt if you weigh it. Sometimes I do more, but for the cubed radish kimchi, it was 2% salt. Okay. The thing about herbs is you just need to use them quickly and don't let the same ones sit there for months and years. And I go through my spices pretty fast, so I don't worry about it too much. And I don't buy a lot. Like I don't buy them in great bulk quantities. What happens is I use them and then I keep the same bottles, but I go into the bulk section of the store and buy the spices from the bulk section and then just pour it back in the jar. And that's very cost effective. That's what I do. With the herb garden, I just use the herbs when they're fresh, and I don't really freeze the herbs. Once summer's over, I just wait until the next summer. I don't grow tons of them, so I don't usually have a lot left. I notice you are using more nuts, especially cashews, in cooking. This is not great for heart disease. Is there an alternative to this that will not change the taste or texture? Yeah, you can always substitute white beans for cashews. And in a lot of things, you can leave the cashews out. Like if it's a creamy soup that has cashews added, just don't add the cashews. But a lot of people will substitute white beans for cashews. So if you put no salt white beans and things, you get a similar thickening effect from the cashews, but without the nuts. So try that. And I don't normally eat this many cashews because, if I did, I would probably, have health problems, gain my weight back, whatever. So normally I don't eat a lot of cashews. Occasionally I put them in a dish and then they taste really good. So Claudia says she loves Benson's seasoning. That's a salt-free seasoning. And like Tammy's cream cheese thing, you could make it optional without cashews and just make it with tofu. But tofu has fat, so people that are heart disease friendly recipes sometimes don't even use tofu because there's an amount of fat in tofu. So it just depends on where you're at and what your own dietary needs are. So with herbs, I don't really grow too many herbs, but probably what I should do with them is dry the ones I don't use over the summer. A lot of times I don't ever get around to doing that, and I just keep the ones growing that will last over the winter, like sage, oregano, thyme, rosemary. That will kind of stay good through the winter here. That doesn't die. And then I just grow like basil, parsley, and the more tender herbs in the spring, but I don't really plant a lot of that. I plant just enough that I can use it, and then here the tender herbs die out as soon as it gets hot. So things like cilantro, parsley will kind of go all through the season, but cilantro and some herbs just don't last the whole season. Can I use hemp seeds in the cheese dish? Are they lower in fat than cashews? I'm not sure, Diana, if they would be a substitute. I would have to try it before I would know for sure. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm kind of running out of steam talking, and I think I just need to call it a night because I still have more questions, but I'm feeling like I've talked long enough, and it's been an hour and 30 minutes, and I don't think anybody wants to listen to me much longer than this. So if you have any last minute comments or questions, I'll put the bundle link one more time. I am going to take a break. I'm going to put all my food up. Like I said, I'm going to package some of it up and bring it to my friend tomorrow. Some things I'm going to put in the refrigerator and use over the next few days. Some things like the cookies, I'm going to bring some to my friend, and I'm going to put some in the freezer. Vivian says, thank you for all the delicious dishes this week. Appreciate your hard work. Looking forward to live classes. Have a pleasant evening. Thanks, everybody. I've enjoyed interacting with you, and it's been a lot of fun. And I will be back doing some cooking demos, and look for my upcoming sourdough bread class. I don't know exactly when it's going to come out, but I will be doing one. And share the bundle tonight for people that may not know about it, if you don't mind. Just put the link on, and if you copy the link I've been pasting, then it'll go to me. So do that for me. 10 days of this has been a lot of work and effort, but I'm glad I did it. I don't regret it. I enjoyed it, actually. I got a lot out of it. I made some things that I enjoyed, so I think it was all a win-win situation, don't you? So I'm looking forward to meeting with you guys again in the future and just cooking with you. So thanks, everybody. And I'm going to try to get some sleep tonight. Tomorrow starts my busy week. So I don't have time to take a day off because the bundle ended on Monday, so we didn't get a weekend or anything. So there's a lot of stuff going on that I have to get to tomorrow. And then Saturday, the new puppy's coming. So I have to get my house ready for the new puppy, and then we have to go pick him up. So we're looking forward to that. In the meantime, I have a lot to get done around here. So thank you all. And next time I do a live, I'll bring the puppy on and you can see him if I can get him away from Toshi, who I know is going to love him. So thanks, everybody. And it was a win-win. I appreciate everybody's patience and my technical glitches and whatever didn't work, sound, and you kept coming back. So I appreciate you all. And I will see you in the near future. So thanks, everybody. And don't forget to get your bundle before it ends tonight. Bye.